There comes a quiet moment, usually after 50, when you realize something has shifted. People listen less closely. They interrupt more easily. They make assumptions about who you are, what you want, what you are capable of. And one day, it stings, not sharply, just enough to notice. You see it in their eyes. They think they already understand you, and they are wrong. For many years, being misunderstood felt like a threat to your dignity, to your value, to the story you worked so hard to build. You corrected people, you explained yourself, you clarified your intentions, you tried to be seen accurately, you tried to be known, and it made sense. When you were younger, understanding feels like oxygen. Without it, you feel invisible. But age has a way of teaching lessons that words never could. Not through sudden wisdom, but through repetition, through quiet disappointment, through watching how little explanation actually changes, through noticing how often people hear what they want to hear, no matter how carefully you speak. At some point, you notice something else, too. The more you explain yourself, the less peaceful you feel. The more you try to manage how others see you, the more tired you become. And the exhaustion is not physical, it is emotional. It sits behind your eyes, it tightens your chest, it whispers that you are carrying weight that was never yours to carry. This is where a different understanding begins, slowly, gently, not as a philosophy, but as a lived realization. You begin to see that being misunderstood is not always a problem. Sometimes it is a gift you did not know how to accept before. Most misunderstandings are not about you at all. They are mirrors of other people's fears, expectations, and limitations. They see you through the lens of their own unfinished stories, their own regrets, their own insecurities. You become a character in a narrative that existed long before you entered the room. When someone underestimates you, it often says more about the size of their inner world than about the truth of your life. When someone misjudges your silence, it is often because they are uncomfortable with their own noise. When someone labels your boundaries as coldness, it is often because they benefited from you having none. Earlier in life, this was hard to accept. You wanted fairness, you wanted accuracy, you wanted acknowledgement. And again, that was human, that was necessary. But now, after decades of observing patterns repeat themselves, something becomes clear. You cannot control how you are understood. You never truly could. What you can control is how much of your peace you are willing to trade for correction. There is a quiet strength that develops when you stop rushing to be explained. It does not announce itself. It does not argue. It simply settles in your posture, your voice, your decisions. You speak when it matters. You remain silent when it does not. And you begin to feel something unfamiliar but deeply comforting. Space. Space in your mind. Space in your chest. Space between stimulus and reaction. Letting others misunderstand you does not mean you accept disrespect. It does not mean you shrink. It means you stop performing for approval that was never guaranteed. It means you stop auditioning for roles you no longer want to play. Think about how often explanations were given to people who were not listening. How often clarity was offered to those committed to confusion. How many times you poured words into conversations that had already decided their ending. After 50, you begin to recognize emotional dead ends. You feel them early, in the tightening of your jaw, in the fatigue that appears before the conversation is even over. Wisdom starts there, in knowing when not to continue. There is also a deeper layer to this piece, one that is rarely spoken about. When you let others misunderstand you, you are choosing to trust yourself more than their interpretation. You are saying, quietly, I know who I am, even if you do not. And that sentence carries a power that no argument ever could. Self-trust changes the way misunderstandings land. They no longer feel like accusations, they feel like background noise. Present, but no longer central. You hear them, but you do not follow them home. This shift does not happen overnight. It happens through small decisions, through choosing not to correct a minor mischaracterization, through letting a conversation end without clearing every detail, through noticing that the world does not collapse when you are not fully understood. In fact, something unexpected happens. Life becomes lighter. You begin to notice how much energy was previously spent managing perception, how much mental effort went into crafting responses, anticipating judgments, rehearsing explanations. When that effort is released, what remains is a quieter, steadier form of confidence. This confidence does not need validation. It is rooted in experience, in survival, in lessons learned the hard way. It is the confidence of someone who has seen enough to know that approval is unstable ground. Being misunderstood can even act as a filter. Those who require you to constantly explain yourself often require you to abandon yourself. Those who can sit with not knowing everything about you tend to respect your autonomy. They leave room for mystery, for growth, for dignity. After 50, dignity becomes more important than being liked, not because you care less, but because you understand the cost. You understand that dignity is internal. It is how you carry yourself when no one is applauding. It is how you speak when you are not being heard. It is how you remain grounded when others project their confusion onto you. There is also grief in this transition, a quiet mourning for the younger version of yourself who wanted to be seen so badly, who believed that clarity would bring closeness, who thought that being understood was the same as being valued. With time, you see that true connection does not require constant explanation. It requires mutual presence, shared respect, a willingness to let the other person be complex. Some people will never understand you, no matter how carefully you speak, and that is not a failure. It is a boundary drawn by reality itself. Letting go of the need to be understood also changes how you listen. You stop trying to convince, you start observing. You notice what people reveal about themselves without meaning to. You hear the fears beneath their words. You see the patterns behind their judgments. This awareness brings compassion, but also clarity. You no longer take misunderstandings personally. You take them information about where not to invest too deeply, about where to conserve your energy. Peace after 50 is not loud. It does not feel like triumph. It feels like alignment. Your inner life begins to match your outer behavior. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop explaining choices that are no longer up for debate. You stop shrinking your truth to fit into someone else's comfort. There is freedom in being slightly misunderstood. It gives you privacy in a world that constantly demands access. It allows you to grow without commentary, to change without announcement. Think about the most peaceful people you know. They are not constantly clarifying themselves. They are not chasing agreement. They move with a quiet certainty that does not require applause. This is not withdrawal, it is discernment. As you age, your time becomes more precious, not because there is less of it, but because you understand its weight. You become selective, not out of bitterness, but out of respect for your remaining years. Letting others misunderstand you is a form of respect for yourself. It is saying, my peace matters more than being right. My nervous system matters more than winning this conversation. My life matters more than correcting your assumptions. There will still be moments when clarity is necessary, when boundaries must be spoken, when silence would cost too much. Wisdom is knowing the difference, knowing when misunderstanding is harmless and when it crosses into harm. But most misunderstandings are small, they pass quickly, they dissolve on their own, and when you stop chasing them, you notice how often they were never meant to be solved. The greatest peace comes when you stop trying to be legible to everyone,
when you allow yourself to be fully known by a few and loosely interpreted by the rest. After 50, you begin to see that your value does not decrease when you are misunderstood. It becomes independent of perception altogether. You have lived enough life to know who you are. You have endured enough storms to trust your own compass. You no longer need external confirmation to feel real. And in that realization, something settles, a deep exhale you did not know you were holding. You walk a little slower, you speak a little less, you listen more to what is happening inside you than outside, and the world, sensing this shift, responds differently. Some step away, some lean closer, both are appropriate. The peace that comes from letting others misunderstand you is not resignation, it is sovereignty. It is choosing inner quiet over external noise, depth over display, integrity over interpretation. And when you reach this place, truly reach it, you realize something profound. Being misunderstood did not diminish you, it revealed you. It stripped away what was unnecessary, it left behind what was essential. You are no longer performing a version of yourself for approval. You are living as yourself, with calm, with restraint, with dignity. And that peace, once found, does not leave easily. It stays with you, in conversations, in solitude, in the quiet confidence of knowing that your life no longer needs to be explained to be valid. This is not the peace of withdrawal, it is the peace of arrival. You have arrived in yourself.